What are scales? Why do we need to know them? That is the topic for today. A scale is basically a collection of notes, and the ones that we are most familiar with are the major scale and the minor scale. Both the major scale and the minor scale have 7 notes in them. So the most common scales are the major scale and then the minor scales. And there are actually 3 variations of a minor scale. There is natural minor, melodic minor, and harmonic minor. So I'm not going to go through and explain each of these scales right now. I just want to give a general overview of why we need to know. So here's a few good reasons for you. First of all, there's the technical component. So as you're learning to play, you want to be able to play the songs that you like, right? And sometimes that's going to involve playing one note at a time. And that's essentially what you're working on whenever you're playing a scale. So by playing, I'm just going to play, let's say, D major scale. So I'm working on a bunch of different technical things right now. I'm working on making the notes legato. So you notice I didn't play it like this. Right? I didn't play it staccato or choppy. That's kind of the way a lot of people sound when they first start playing scales. So you want to try to avoid that by playing slowly and making the notes nice and connected. So and so on. So there's no silence, there's no space in between the notes. You're also likely working on your right hand if you're using a pick or if you're using your fingers. I'm using a pick right now, but basically, depending on the technique that you want to work on, this could be a great alternate picking exercise. So down, up, consistently. So we're connecting notes and we're working on this kind of mechanical exercise of alternate picking, down, up, down, up, down, up. Okay. Or maybe you want to work on a different kind of picking technique where it's more of I forget the name for it, but it's economy. Maybe you want to work on more of an economy picking. Maybe you want to work on economy picking. So you're going to go down, up, down, up, down. But when I go to the next string, I'm going to keep going down. So in other words, I'm just going to keep going in the direction of the string I'm going to. So down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, up. And then it would be the opposite, for the way down. Up, down, or down, up, down, up, down, up, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So whenever I go between a string, I kind of just keep going the same direction. Maybe you want to be able to play solos, play lead. Listen to any guitar player playing a solo, and they're usually playing single notes, right? So you can either, so again, we're just kind of like isolating the technique in this case. Another thing that you can do with scales is practice in sequences, and you can get a lot out of playing scales in sequences also. So a sequence is just meaning a pattern, a short musical pattern. One pattern that might sound familiar. So I'm going up, let's see. I'm going up 1, 2, 3 notes of the scale. And then I'm going back 2 notes in the scale. So now I'm starting on the second note. And then I go back and start on the third note. Backwards. So practicing in sequences is actually very practical, especially when it comes to improvisation. So let's say you got a song and there's a D major chord. So one way of thinking about it is that you have this pool of notes that you can pull from. In this case, let's say it's D major. So over something like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of improvise over D major, and I'm going to use some sequences. So scales are very useful when it comes to improvisation, and if you want to practice it somewhat systematically, kind of both working on improvisation and just learning the scale and working on your technique, I definitely recommend playing with sequences. So when I first started learning scales, I practiced it this way, and this is the way I recommend it for most of my students, and that is learn a scale, learn it in a position. Doesn't matter where or what the scale is for our purposes right now. So I'm going to play a D major scale. I'm going to play it in second position. So this. Okay. And so all you're going to do is you're going to start on a D. You're going to play to the top of the position. So I'm not going to play any higher because that would take me into another position. I'm just going to head back. So without repeating the top note, just start heading back down. Now I'm not going to go any lower than this note because it would take me out of the position, so I'm just going to stay there and head back. And now I'm back to D. So one more time. Okay, I'm also attaching a chord to it. This is also just a D major chord. Alright, it's very... this is basically, you can think of this as, it's like C major if you played C like this. And if you had to move it up 2 frets, you can't use the open strings anymore. I mean, you can, but it wouldn't be the same chord. So now this, your index finger becomes the nut that you're barring here. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll do that pattern. So I'll play D to the top, to the bottom, back to D, and then I'll play the chord, and then I'll move it up a half step. So I'll do that a few times. So. basically you're taking this pattern or this position and you're playing it in every key. So I'm playing it from D, and if I just keep going up, you know, I could go all the way up until I hit the D again. If you want to, and then you've basically played in every key possible. Some other things, definitely start slow. Use a metronome. I don't have one next to me, that's why I'm not using it, but start very slow. So or slower if you need to. However, just go as fast as you can play it perfectly for now. So for tempo, I would just recommend going as fast as you can play it perfectly. So with each click, you're playing a note, and there's no space in between the note, so you're not going. Alright, that's just a different technique. And of course you could do the same thing for any scale, any pattern. So you look up like C, so take C harmonic minor. And so on. So I'm playing C harmonic minor up to C sharp harmonic minor to D harmonic minor and so on. Okay, so that's my little spiel on what scales are, why you should work on them, and how you should work on them.